Welcome back to another edition of the Building Your Income Pipeline. It's still me, Omar, the entrepreneur, here at your service. And now we're moving into the another part of the summit, in which I call FILE. And excuse how I spell the word FILE. It's FILLE, and it stands for finances, insurance, legal, labor, and what I call entrepreneur capital. We're only going to focus on three of those on this particular segment, and we'll pick up the other ones later. So we're going to talk about financials, where we have the accountant. Yours truly, I represent the accounting side, and I'll just talk in general, and we'll make sure that we have information on that. We have our insurance agent right there. That is no other than Michael Drayton. Amen.
Hey, brother, how you doing?
Man, life is good. Life is good.
All
And then
right.
we have our legal person over here, and that's Robin. I always get your last name right wrong. Scats.
It's skates. It's skates. Like roller skates.
Roller
other than
skates,
with the
y'all.
C.
Yes.
Hello, everybody.
And we've known each other, all of us. Well, at least I've known them for a lot of years, and I'm 21. I'm not sure how old they are. I died by grade. All right, down my head grade. All right, so now we have our attorney, we have our insurance agent in place. So let's start with this. Whether individuals are building a side hustle, whether they are working full time and having a side hustle, or having multiple streams of income, there are some things that individuals need to be aware of. And Robert, we'll start with you from a legal perspective. What should those individuals be aware of?
So, I mean, one, I think it's a great question. And normally people come to us because they're in trouble because they were not aware. Because when you don't know, you don't know. So first of all, you should be aware that you should contact an attorney. If you are looking to establish a business and it's anything other than you just selling candy out of your trunk. If you're looking to actually have something long-term and build, then you need to go speak with legal counsel. Everything that Omar said, you need to speak to an insurance person and you need to speak to an accountant. So that's the first thing. And from that conversation, then you can begin to speak to the person of these individuals, especially us, and I'm sure the insurance person as well as the financial person, and ask about the structure. You need to let them know, you need to understand what you're trying to do, so therefore they can tell you how to go about doing it, whether it's starting a nonprofit, whether it's starting a limited liability company, which that's the go-to for everyone, but may not necessarily be beneficial to you when it comes to tax liability. So again, we try to speak to someone to establish really truly, and I know this is old school and today people try to do a shortcut, but I always say you need to do a business plan. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the traditional 100 and something page business plan. You definitely can condense it, but you at least need to know what you want to do, how you want to do it, financially, what is it going to take to do it? What do you need specifically to do it? And again, the first thing I always say is you need some liability insurance, because if you're selling something, if you're providing a service, anybody can sue you. Trust me, you can ask me, because I represent people every day that doesn't know that. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that, and don't get me wrong, I wish we were, back in, I don't even know when that was applicable, but maybe 1800s, where people can shake your hand and they can agree to provide a service, and then they will pay you what you asked for. Kick that out. That doesn't exist anymore. Okay. We also will help you establish the documentation that you need to support your business, whether it's contracts, whether it's an invoice or whatever, which spells out, what you're going to do, the services you're going to provide, the goods that you're going to provide, and also the cost for those goods so that you can have something in writing. Again, we're far removed from the handshake. I wish we were, but we're far removed. And so much of my practice as far as civil litigation is just that. Well, we didn't have a contract, but we did the work. And so if you do the work, if you provide a good, then you should get paid.
Absolutely.
You know, I love that Omar doing this session. His series is going to talk about labor because I'm also an employment attorney as well.
Oh, wow.
And so with that, you know, and I've been I'm general counsel for a number of companies. So, you know, labor is the key, you know, factor when people going out of business, right? Because a lot of people don't know how to manage. And people sometimes who start a business, they've been the employee, but they've never been in management of labor. And so sometimes that's the downfall. All you need is one EEOC case, right? And your business is gone. So I say that to say is that if you are engaging people to help you, whether they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to help you a little bit, then you need to understand what kind of employee they are too. So again, that becomes a legal factor too. And again, I would say if you really want your business to thrive, then you need to get these things in writing. Partnership agreements, I mean, which is a totally different thing. I guess we can get into that. But again, if you partner with somebody, then we need to have a partnership agreement because again, this is where businesses live and die. So you need to, it's so many things that you have to consider. And I think you should have a check off sheet to see what you need to minimally have in place if you really truly want your business to thrive, because there's money to be made, but everything needs to be done in some type of order. You got to have a good foundation.
Absolutely. I mean, those are good. We're going to come back to that in the employment piece. I mean, we definitely can follow back up on that because that's one of the things that, as you indicated, entrepreneurs, they are not too concerned with that in the beginning. But when they begin to start hiring individuals, especially independent contractors, and they treat them like they're the employees, there's something that's wrong. So we'll come back with that. But you mentioned something about liability. And that goes straight to you, Mike. You know,
I'll take the baton from here.
There you go. So, entrepreneur.
I'm throwing it to
There you go. So entrepreneurs, they think about being a sole proprietor. They think about being a LLC or even a corporation. But if they don't have that in the insurance, to them, and I don't want to know your thoughts, so I'm going to pass it to you.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, thanks again, Omar, for allowing us to get together and have this discussion. And I can't tell you how much I would love to be able to sit in front of audiences of entrepreneurs and just get a right perspective about insurance and liability insurance. And I want to start with the basics. In the beginning, people get auto insurance, and then if they're really fortunate, they'll get homeowners insurance, and then some point along the way, they might get life insurance, and hey, if they're even more blessed, they'll start a business, and then they'll start getting types of business insurance. The problem is that business insurance is so different from auto insurance, homeowner insurance, and life insurance. And there are a lot of companies, a lot of very reputable, smart, large corporations, small companies, individual agents who specialize in auto and home insurance and even life insurance. But when it comes to business insurance, it's really a different animal. So when you go to get your first business liability policy or general liability policy, if you're going to go to the person that sold you auto insurance, have a discussion with them as to what do they know about business insurance, how many business clients do they have, is that something that they specialize in. Our company, 21K Group, we specialize in business insurance. And therefore, a lot of our energy is spent day to day dealing with the issues and concerns that affect business clients. And I'll give you a good example. Like I said, most people go into business insurance thinking it's like auto insurance.
Yeah.
But when you say, for example, day one, you want to you want to start a, I don't know, a food truck. Very straightforward. You you have the you have the oven and the grills in the truck. You drive the truck. You park it somewhere, and you sell the food out the side. Okay. Well, there are all kinds of risks. Never mind the fact that there are probably some government ordinances against whether you can park your truck there or not. So, legal pieces aside, the liability that you're going to have to pay, or maybe in your general liability insurance policy, you might need to consider those sort of ordinances and money that you can have set aside, or claims that you can have set aside to pay for something like that if that's an issue. But your auto insurance person isn't necessarily going to know that. Now, they might be able to sell you a policy for your food truck, but even then, because of the size and the weight, there are limitations on what a regular auto policy would sell on a food truck. I'll give you another example. I have a client who, they don't want to do Uber or Lyft. They don't want to work for like Amazon or Whole Foods or whatever, and shipping, using their car to bring food back and forth. But they do use their car with a contract for a hospital to transport those patients home, or maybe even a doctor or two if that sort of service is needed. It's not a limousine service. It's not an Uber, and it's, quite frankly, is not the same as dropping off products. Right. And so if you don't even, so you need a special type of car to even be able to get the proper insurance to do that sort of business. And again, your auto insurance person isn't going to know that. They'll give you the insurance and, have a nice day, but now you're violating the business side, which is the liability. You might need $1 million or $2 million worth of liability, and you're just driving a big kind of SUV. But if it isn't the right 10 types of SUV that qualify for this type of business, you're not going to even be able to get that business. You're not going to be able to get that insurance, and your business isn't even off the ground before you've even started. But like I said, a personal lines insurance agent, one that does auto and home, isn't going to know about those sort of specialities. And I'll conclude with this. Most people even just think with business insurance just in terms of liability. But the bigger side of business insurance is protecting the income. So what happens when you're sick and you can't work? What happens when your employees are sick and can't work? And as the old adage says of my Latino brothers and sisters, no trabajo, no dinero. So how do you protect yourself? And you could possibly get a life insurance policy for that, but there are specialized finance protection policies that you can get for your business. And a life insurance agent isn't necessarily going to be qualified if they're not familiar with business insurance to be able to provide you the best advice. So I conclude with, when you're talking to an insurance agent about starting a business, make sure that insurance agent knows something about the business that you're getting in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So no work, no pay, right?
No work, no money,
right.
no money, no honey.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I speak a little. All right, so let me talk about the accounting piece, and then we'll just have this round table discussion because I have some other stuff that came as you two were talking. All right, so from an accounting perspective, for those individuals, whether you have a full-time job or a side hustle or multiple side hustles, the company that you're doing a side hustle for, if you on some type of platform, they will issue you a 1099 miscellaneous. So don't shove that away, because if it's more, I believe if it's more than 600, you'll get that because they're reporting that income, or they reporting what they gave you to the Internal Revenue Service. So you're going to have to file that on your taxes. So once you get that 1099, that becomes part of that becomes part of your income. And hopefully you have some expenses. We'll talk about expenses in a few minutes, some expenses that can either offset those or reduce those as well. And I would always say start with the Internal Revenue Service, so irs.gov. It's a great resource. I know some people are scared of the Internal Revenue Service, but it's a great resource. It's a great resource if you're looking to do business. And some individuals are going to file their taxes on the Schedule C. So this is where you want to talk to a tax accountant to see, well, I mean, if it's a limited liability company, you're going to possibly file on a Schedule C. If it's and I don't want to kind of talk too much about the tax piece, and talk to your accountant. But the Schedule C will have your income and your expenses. But be aware that the Schedule C is one of the most highly audited statements. I do know this. Audited statements that the Internal Revenue Service is going to look at. So that's where you need to engage your tax accountant. So as a self-employed or somebody that has multiple streams of income, some of the expenses that I would look at, and there may be some more. So startup costs that you may have, office expenses. If you have a home office, I mean, you can write off a portion of a room that you're operating in. Certain business meals, education that you take, travel. So if you're going from, let's say, your home to Staples, then that's one way. And then if you go from Staples to the post office, that's another way. But you're not tracking you going back home because that's not in the course of you doing that business. So I mean, there is some software out there that can track some of your travel expenses. I mean, these individuals, I'm quite sure that there's some expenses that you can write off for the legal services and insurance premiums as well. Any software that you purchase, equipment that you purchase as well. So I would look at those as you are beginning to work on these multiple streams of income. So that's enough said about the finance piece, but we can go back and forth with that as well. Okay. So I want to talk to you both, Michael, beginning with you so there are individuals that have these side hustles and these side gigs or these multiple streams of income. And we're going to kind of lump those in. For now, we'll just call them building your income pipeline. And these individuals have online businesses. So is there insurance, I should say, for those individuals who have online businesses? So if they're doing Amazon drop shipping, so should they be aware of any insurance? And Robin, from your perspective, should they be aware of any legal things as it relates to online business? So Mike, I'll start with you.
Sure. So on the first type of insurance that most online businesses should get is called E&O, or error and omissions insurance. This type of insurance covers if you send someone the wrong product, they asked for A, you send B, and now they want to try to sue you because you didn't send them A, or you violated something in the contract or a statement of agreement, a statement of service, and then they want to come behind you and try to sue you for that. So especially for online services, because you're basically just agreeing over online, and most of the money is usually handled through a reputable third-party vendor like Amazon or something. So it's not really so much the money. It's really just making sure that you're delivering what you promised. Absolutely. When you said you're promised, so that you don't have to go to Robin and get protected for things. Right. So the first one is errors and omissions. Now, then the next level up the food chain, and no pun intended, but if you're delivering a product or service online, especially if it's a food or something like that, there's such a thing as called product liability insurance, where they're going to try to send those items back to you, or they might even sue you because the item was broken, defective, something was wrong with the product itself. Or even on the other side, you use a third party vendor who's kind of your wholesaler,
Right.
and they're going to send it on your behalf, so you don't actually even see the product until the customer comes back and said, you sent me this and it wasn't right. So it's what's called product liability insurance, and that's usually featured under a general liability coverage plan. And that's why, if you already have insurance, if you already have a business general liability insurance, make sure, if you have a product or service, ask your insurance agent what part of this plan covers this item or this service, this product or this service. Because if it doesn't, then you either need to get a different plan, or you need to get some additional items. A great example, I have a restaurant who recently opened, and there's such a thing as food spoilage.
Yeah.
And funny enough, probably about a week later, I had another client who was an online client. They sell high-end food service that are mostly European, and we made sure that they had the same sort of coverage, the food spoilage coverage. And that's not something you would automatically think of, because you think it would already be packaged and everything's set to go. But insurance is all about covering those things that you weren't planning for. So, and at the same time, you want to make sure that you're with an insurance consultant who can provide you not too much and not too little, kind of the Goldilocks of insurance plans.
I like that.
Yeah. So, Rob, same question for you. Thank you for that, Mike.
Yeah. So I definitely agree with everything that Mike said, and know that I've had plenty of clients that have not heeded what he said. So definitely that. But attorneys are normally known for after the fact, right? For the lawsuits, when things happen. And so for me, I always believe, when I do seminars and speak with people up front, about preventive, right? Because first of all, normally, even if there's an online presence, and nowadays they're doing all types of businesses online. They're doing counseling online. They're doing a whole bunch of things, not just ordering products. So again, my thing is working with the company, making sure that their online presence through their websites have disclaimers in it, that when they send out messages to their clients, that there's certain things that we're not liable for, or we won't be. And even though it may not absolve them from every liability, it definitely reduces it. The other thing is, like Mike said, that they deal with vendors. And so again, you got to have vendor contracts. So you need to make sure that, that product that you receive from that vendor that was spoiled, that you're sending out to your clients who have your name, though your client's going to sue you. So you should have a recourse to attach that vendor to it, because again, you should make sure those contracts, which is legal, have some type of disclosure in it. Nowadays you see all the time, I think they just had a call back on something on the news that was perishable, and that they were calling it back. And I'm trying to think of the company, but it just happened earlier this week, where they're calling everything back. So if you were selling that vendor's product, then therefore you were actually putting something out there that people are looking for you to stand behind. Again, vendor contracts. If you have, sometimes we have situations where staff actually do something to products, whether it's food or something like that, because they're mad and disgruntled. So again, you have that. So again, just making sure that you have everything in place that will protect you as as much as you could be protected, and also being there for you when something comes up or a question, because again, a disgruntled customer could do some things to you. Again, there is a limit that people can't just come out and slander you, right? Can't say something about you or defame you. So they can't do it unless it's true. So again, making sure that you have the things in place to make sure that you can kind of alleviate some of that. With something else that again, like I said, with us, I always tell people that they need to speak with an insurance agent, broker that knows about their business so they can continue to add on. And sometimes people think, just like Mike said, that if they just have a general liability product insurance, that's enough. But it's a whole bunch of things. If you're working with children, there's certain insurance that you need to have. Also, again, if you're working with certain populations, especially children, even if it's online, then you still need to make sure that people have certain types of licensing. Again, they sign agreements, background checks. So again, from a legal standpoint, we would do a check off to make sure your business is covered. Again, sometimes there are some things that slip through the cracks, and that's how you end up getting sued. But most of the time, it's again, it's reduced your liability because you have put those things in place.
Good.
And if I could just jump back in here, which hopefully will be a great segue for Omar, that I think a lot of people don't budget for insurance. And I will tell you now, insurance is expensive. And the more complicated, more hazardous your program is, your way of making money is, the more expensive your insurance is going to be. If you have a business where you go and wash windows, if you wash windows that are over 12 feet above ground level, you guarantee one half of it is going into taxes and the other half is going to insurance to make sure you live.
That's right.
And let me just say this. So, people may argue about, the cost of insurance, and sometimes they look at where they can cut costs. The insurance is not a place where you can cut costs. It's not. Yeah. I say insurance. I also will say legal is not a place and stuff. Or accounting. Or accounting. These are not the places that you need to cut costs and everything. I've had so many businesses come to me lately, and I'm not trying to hate on any entity, but what is the legal zone or whatever. And they've had these, agreements drafted out. But again, you have to think, it's online. You don't know whether that person, if you're in the state of Maryland or you're in the state of Illinois or you're in Washington, D.C., you don't know if that person that's drafting those documents are familiar with the laws in that particular jurisdiction. They're normally giving you a boilerplate. Again, no disrespect. I'm sure, it's a great resource for some things, I'm sure. But I've had, recently I've had something in court where someone, that opposing person was like, well, the judge said, well, where did you get it from? I got it from a legal zone. And they was like, well, they didn't tell you this. That's right. So that's not applicable here. And that person was so wedded with that. So again, it's nothing. I mean, some of us attorneys, insurance brokers, accountants will offer a consultation for you up front, and be willing to say, hey, this is what you need, and just give it to you. And it may be about 30 minutes or whatever, or you pay a nominal fee to have a consultation. But do not shortchange these things, because if something goes wrong, your liability for that particular incident is going to far outweigh the cost of insurance. I will say this too, because this is important. I remember I was in a case where people were building homes, like somebody said, oh, like, Mike, come on, we're going to flip houses. And people think, oh, we're going to flip houses. We're going to do this, right? And so they ended up, it was 3 of them getting into this, flipping homes and stuff. They never got any insurance. They never got any, evidently, legal advice, right? They never, and the crazy part is, I think it was an accountant involved and it was an attorney involved, but maybe they weren't familiar with that, right? And so fast forward, like, again, know this, especially in Baltimore City, you got lead paint. The children can bring lead paint cases, 20 years, 20 years forward, right?
Right.
So they're there getting sued 20 years later, all because they made a mistake. Now, they made money during the time.
Wow.
They no longer had those houses, but you moving forward, the insurance that you had during that time would have covered that because it was for that period. But guess what? It wasn't there. They had they were personally liable for this. So again, know that, you may be short-sighted, but you have insurance protects you long-term. The advice that you get from an accountant is long-term. Legal advice is long-term. So you need to prepare just like you prepare for anything else.
Right. And, and Mike, you mentioned the budgeting piece, so let me just hop in here real quick.
Yeah, please.
And that goes back to, Robin, what you were saying with the business plan.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's a side gig, side hustle, or if it's multiple streams of income, you still need that business plan.
Yeah.
And you need to have some way in which you're working to control the revenue, meaning that you need to know what your revenue is and what your expenses are. And on a regular basis, be able to go back to see what's working and what's not working. And that budgeting piece comes in play with that. So in that, definitely include the services of the three, the accountant, the attorney, and the insurance agent. Include that in there and just have that conversation with them. I know some entrepreneurs will heed to that, where they'll begin to have that conversation with those professionals, where other individuals say, you know what, I'm part-time. I don't really need this. I'm just doing this skincare thing on the side.
Right.
I don't need no insurance. I don't need no contracts.
Right.
I don't need to know, where my budget is as it relates to, coming up with the skin cream or whatever you think about, even going from a licensing standpoint, can you do that? Can you do it out of your home? So, I always say to individuals, whether you're a full-time, part-time, or you got multiple part-time side gigs, make sure you have all of those avenues covered just in case. So I just wanted to kind of piggyback on that.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to piggyback on something that picked up on something that Robin said, that especially, I want to speak to all my flippers out there. All my buy a house, build it, turn it, sell it, get the next one. Especially to you guys. You need the three of us, or the likeness of the three of us, as your ride or die. You need to have in your car, when you're driving up to the shop, you need to know that your accountant, your insurance agent, and your lawyer are right there knowing exactly what's going on from the time you buy the house to the time you sell the house to the next time you buy another house. If only because having that relationship in place will speed forward the time of having to pursue the next project. Because every time you buy a new house, they're going to ask you, do you have insurance in place? Do you have your banking in place? And then someone's going to have to review the documents. So if Robin's been your ride or die attorney since day one, then she's going to be able to save you hours, maybe even weeks of time going back and forth with the documents. If I know if I have all your business information on file, if I know, if I've been your insurance partner, I can take a 3-day process, a 5-day process into a couple of hours process. So it's really important to have those things in place. And I'll close with this. The other point that I wanted to raise, if I was going to offer you $1 million, and all you have to do is pay me $1,000, would you take it?
Yes.
So
in a heartbeat.
So the next time you look at when you're looking at your insurance and it's an $1,000 policy, don't turn it down because it's expensive. Think of it. It was only $1,000 for $1 million, a $2 million policy that will keep you out of bankruptcy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And another thing I would say about I was thinking about you, Mike, is that even so some people will have these side gigs where they say they do events, right? And they may only do an event once or twice a year. And so they don't think that they need insurance. The only time they think about the insurance is if the venue that they're having it at requires it, right? And then they got to call around and find that out, right? However, they don't realize it would be less expensive if they had something in place, because the insurance would be based on they're going to ask the question, well, how many times do you have an event a year? Oh, okay, I only have it once or twice a year. How many people you have, who, where, this, that, and other. So again, having a plan in place, it saves you money. Okay.
Right.
Same thing what Mike said. If in fact we have clients that retain us, we are regular and retained, that if they call me, they are my priority. Know that they pay far less than somebody who calls me and says, Robin, I have this emergency and I need it right now. I already know about that particular client. I can just pull the documents. I'm not charging them for preparation because it was already prepared. So again, that same thing with your accountant. If they have your information from last year, they don't have to to do a whole bunch of whatever. So it saves you money to build relationships. And I'm not saying just with me or Michael or Omar, but find those relationships, because you want somebody to be intimately invested in your business. You know, we can't be intimately invested if you only come to us once every 5 years, because we have all these other clients, right? We can't stop everything for you. So definitely align with that. You have to have a key team to be successful.
And I'd love to hear, Omar, your thoughts about, when you're planning out the business. It's one of the things, like using Robin's example of an event planner. It's Christmas time, holiday time, and so there's all these open markets, and they're going to ask you, do you have insurance? And they're like, well, no, I only do this once a year. I make these little ribbons for puppy dogs. They're really cute. I'll sell them out, make a couple $100, and then be on my way. And then they'll call me and they'll say, ask me for, well, how much is my vendor's requiring me to have $1 million coverage. How much is that going to cost me? And be like, oh, well, that's going to cost you about $500. And it's like, well, I'm only doing this one time. Right. And then I said, well, you need to talk to your business plan person or your accountant, because maybe you should be doing this as a proper business, because that $500 is going to buy a yearly plan, it's gonna be like $600. So spend $100 more, and now anytime you go to a market, you're covered. You don't have when they say, "Do you have any?" Yes.
They got
so again, it's all about spending money now to save yourself later, and you have to build that into your plan. Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you touched it right there. And, in business planning, even if it's a part-time business, I mean, you really want to have some type of plan, even if it's a one-pager. Identify the problem you're solving. What's the solution? Who's the audience that's going to buy it? How are you going to get to the market, and how the market is going to get to you? I mean, those customers are going to get to you. And then that team, who's on your team that kind of execute that? So is it, if you're on one of those driving platforms, is it that company's part of your team and it's you? And then your budget, as we continue to talk about, what's your budget? So even if you're doing this on a part-time basis, you still want to have some type of plan of action. And that's what the business plan is, the plan of action. What are you going to do? And then if it's a seasonal business, then you want to account for those revenues that you're going to bring in and those expenses that you're going to, really put out as well. So having that plan of action, business plan, whatever you want to call it, action plan, you really want to have something to use as a guide, and make sure that you include these individuals. I mean, I've been working with entrepreneurs for a lot of years, and those who, I'm going to say, for those who are successful, are those who have these individuals, the attorney, insurance
Yeah.
agent, and accountant. I'm not doing this so that you can go out and spend money to have these individuals, but I am. I'm saying to you, this is a way for you to be protected in your business. And
Yeah.
if you want to continue to do this business, having this business, what I call a business team, somebody may call it something else, but having this business team that's a sounding board for you, but giving you advice so that you can continue to do the things that you do best.
Yeah,
So
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I would, and I echo that, and I add by saying what we're talking about isn't meant to scare you or meant to drive you away from
that's
your
what he
dream.
said. I'm trying to scare you, but go ahead, Mike.
It's like if this doesn't scare you, then you're ready. But no, but the other thing is like we are the platform for you to dream the impossible dream. Why do people not pursue their dreams? Because they're scared. But if your bases are covered by having a team like us in place, then you can dare to dream the impossible dream because all your foundations are covered. And you might be thinking about, hey, right now I just want to go to the Christmas market and sell these little ribbons for puppies. Next thing is you're the #1 national vendor selling on Amazon or Walmart or both, making multi-millions of dollars in ribbons for puppies. But that's not going to start unless you have a team in place who can guide you, who can prepare you for the pitfalls, to avoid the pitfalls. 60% of businesses go out of business in the first 5 years. Most of them because they didn't have a team like us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts?
I think that what Mike said was good, and I'm on point with it. None of this is meant to scare you, and know that other than Omar's trying to scare you, but know that every attorney. I know we get a bad rap as far as attorney. Every attorney is not for you, and so if you feel like an attorney is not for you, then go somewhere else. I mean, unfortunately, we're a dime a dozen, but not attorneys that truly are for you and are working towards your best interest. We're not a dime a dozen. And so again, find somebody that's going to be on your team, really be on team you, and it's going to make sure that they provide you with the guidance that you need. And that's the same with the insurance, that's the same with your financial person or whatever, because these are people that's all in your business, right? And so you want to make sure the person that's all in your business is for you and available to you and is giving you the advice you need to be successful. That's it. So, but good luck with everything. And again, we need more we need more businesses out there, especially African American businesses. And again, I'm all for that. I'm all for it. So good luck with your in your business ventures.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I echo and amen everything Robin said. My only addition is that we are not just lawyers, insurance, accounting people. We are actually spheres of influences. So when we come as your ride or die, we also come with a lot of other clients, colleagues, partners, other relationships who might actually be able to point you in directions you never considered. Maybe you need to get a certain type of vendor, you're doing the house flipping and you need a contractor. Well, I've got 3 other contractors that I insure as well. So, or maybe you're looking to do a food truck business. Well, I actually know some restaurant business that I insure. Maybe we can sit down together to help you put your business plan together. So we're not just in the business of advising you on our profession. We are actually in the business of being centers of spheres of influences that we can add value to your business.
Amen.
Good. Yep. Good point. Says from an accounting perspective, I would look at, and I think we all have said this throughout the presentation, that is to look for people that understand your industry. For me, I would like to see a CPA, certified public accountant, that's working with small businesses, or an enrolled agent. I mean, these are people who can do what I call battle in front of the Internal Revenue Service. I mean, they have to go through strict certification for those. So either an EA or a CPA to really help you out with your business. So this is really part 4 of what I call the formula for building your income pipeline. We went over the financial piece, the insurance piece. We covered the legal and some parts of labor. The next time you'll see me, we'll focus on, we bring in some individuals in to help you out with accessing capital. So those will kind of round out this, what I call keeping your file in order. And I got 2 L's in file, y'all. So it's all good. So I want to thank Robin for coming over.
Thank you, Omar.
Robin Skates.
Thank
That's right.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you
And
did.
my good friend over there, Michael Drayton, man. You know,
Yeah. Go Ravens.
look at you.
Oh, my
Not Bears.
Not yet.
Go Ravens.
Dallas.
Oh, so we're going to end in this part of the Building Your Income Pipeline Summit. And we'll make sure that, everybody will have access to both Robin and Michael's contact information in our directory that we'll have accessible to you. So until we meet again, continue to improve and progress. Peace.
Bye. Bye.
All right.